My name is Lexi Jong, and here I like to talk about luxury makeup. And today we are going to be talking about the new formulation of the Chanel Ultra Le Teint Foundation, as well as the new formulation of the concealer. And I do have new shades in each of these, so we'll take a look at those. But we're also going to do a get ready with me using some Chanel items. So there was this look on Instagram that Chanel Beauty posted, and I really like it. It's using some of the new items from the most recent collection. So I figured, let's go ahead, we'll try that out. I don't think I'm going to be able to accomplish it quite like they did, but you know, we'll see what my rendition looks like. So I'm going to bring you in closer and let's get started. So right now I just have skincare on my face, and I am putting on some of the Surratt Perfectionist primer. And yeah, that's it. So that kind of just mattifies my sunscreen without making my skin dry. And then let's also add some eyeshadow primer. I'm going to use the Viseart eye primer and just taking a little bit. It's actually a little more than I need. And just kind of putting that on. All right, so we're going to start off with the concealer, and I picked this one up in the shade BR02, which is a new lighter shade. So I can't, well, I've actually been wearing this for a while, so I can't say I can't wait to try it, but I can't wait to share it with you. So I wiped the wand off so I don't have a lot of product on here, just adding 2 little splotches. And you can either blend this in with your finger or a brush. So let me show you your finger. And I don't use a lot. You can go in with more layers, but I'm not a huge concealer person, so I just always like just a little bit to kind of improve the look without looking like I have concealer on. And then this side, we're going to use the soft concealer brush from Sonia G. And we're going to do another layer of these, but you can see how much coverage there is with one really light layer. So here are the 2 eyes. Now I do think finger application looks slightly better than brush application, but I do prefer to use a brush. So what I do then typically is just take my finger and just kind of pat over everything. And if there's like any little areas that maybe need the warmth of my finger to melt in a little better, that usually helps. So then, you know, I don't have to use my finger for the entire application. So this shade, BR02, you can see does add a little brightness under my eyes. It's a lighter shade. It's fairly neutral. It's BR, meaning, you know, a little bit on the rosier side, but you can see here that it's actually fairly neutral. And we'll look at some comparisons after we do this little, you know, after I finish putting on my makeup. So let's move on to foundation first. So for the foundation, I have shade BD10. BD01, sorry. And this is a new shade to me. And I don't remember, I think they might have this, they have this, I think, in the Beiges foundation, but I didn't try that one. And I did try, you know, my normal like BR12 in that, or I also wear like the B10 sometimes, but neither of those have ever been great matches for me. Whereas this one is a really good match. I finally have a shade I'm happy with in Chanel foundations. All right, so this is what's left of one pump. And the brush that I use today is the Jumbo Base from Sonia G. This is part of the Fusion set. And this is what the foundation looks like up close. And you can see it's kind of like a soft matte. Now I have used the previous version of the Ultra Le Teint. We'll talk about that at the end. But I do prefer the newer formula. They're not super different, but there is something about this one that I just prefer a little bit more. All right, so the eye look that I saw on Instagram uses the new Stilo Ombre Contour in khaki. This is like the greener one. And it looks like you kind of have a base with this kind of going up into the crease. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of that on. This is a really stiff brush. Let me just show you here. You can see how little flex and movement there is here. So this is the Omnia BOM 405, and just gonna start, you can see I've already made a mess. Start blending that out. And the bronze is gonna go on top of the lid, so it doesn't really matter what that part looks like there. I'm gonna try applying some of this directly to the bristles. We'll see how that performs. And let's go into the crease with that. Now, I do think that the model had like a little bit of a darker part of the crease. I think, yeah, that's not gonna work. Let me just wipe off these bristles a little bit and then just kind of buff that out. I want mine to be lighter. Well, we'll start with this and see how it goes. All right, so we've got that kind of buffed into the crease a little bit, and you can see that matte part, and then it looks like the ombre, or not the ombre, the bronze shade is all over the lid, and then the eye is lined again with this. That's at least what I have in my memory. I'm not looking at the photo. This is what I remember from seeing yesterday. So this is the Lame Bronze, and I'm gonna wipe off most of this product here, and I'm gonna use the same brush. The reason I chose this brush partly is the fact that it's synthetic and I can use it for the entire look. So I'm just gonna kind of brush some on, and again, I wiped off the wand so I don't have a ton of product on it, and then I'm gonna use this brush to kind of brush it out onto the lid. And I'm gonna layer this, so we'll put on more. All right, so that's one layer, and now let's go ahead and we're gonna add some more. Putting a little bit more product this time. And I'm just gonna take this brush, and now that I kind of have that base kind of set there, I'm tapping over. I'm not spreading it quite as much. Let's get a little bit more. That looks a little patchy. All right, so there's that. You can see it's still a little wet there where I just added some, so we're gonna let that dry while I do the other eye. All right, so there it is, but you can see that my lid, I don't know if this is like red underneath the green for, you know, actually from the application, maybe I was going in too harsh, or whether it has changed color, but you can see that that has turned brown. So we're going to stay away from the eyes for a couple of minutes and see if that calms down or what. I'm just kind of curious whether it was the pencil that changed or whether that's like irritation on my skin, because I don't feel any irritation. So while we're laying that set, we're gonna go in with the bronzer, and I'm just gonna go in with the foundation brush that I used before. This is the deep bronze shade. I tried looking in the lid as a mirror. There's no mirror in that lid. And we're just gonna put just a touch of this back here. I didn't really pick up much product. Let's get a little bit more. wipe off the brush a little bit. All right, so that's it for that. And then let's go in with some blush. All right, so we're gonna go in with one of my favorite blushes. This is number 330 Rose Petillant. This is the older formula. This came out as a limited edition shade, I think last spring, like 2020 spring. And I really, really love the shade. It was around longer in Canada than here in the US. Wish they would bring this back, because when they came out with those ones with like the burgundy color on the package instead of the white, Canada actually got the color again in one of those special packages, but the US did not. Really not sure what's going on with at the eye area. That's really weird. So I'm going to put some of the khaki here on my hand, and I'm going to brush it out with my finger and see what happens. And then I'm going to put another one here and brush it out with the brush. Maybe it's like an undertone issue. I mean, look at that. That's looking kind of brownish. That was with my finger. I guess there's like this like beigey brown undertone. I must have blended it out too much. That explains why I don't feel any irritation, but that's just odd to me. So I think I need to add more green there because I don't like that. So I think instead of going back in with that, I'm going to take like a fluffy crease brush. This is the Omnia BOM 430. And I'm going to go into the blurry green quad and just get some of this green on this crease brush and just kind of put that there. Okay, this brush was a little too fluffy for that. We'll have to blend that out. Just make both sides the same first. Okay, so I wiped off the brush. Let's just kind of buff this out a little bit. Kind of more of a vampy, smokier look. All right, let's just kind of blend this a little bit more. And I think I'm gonna blend it with something a little bit lighter as well. So I'm gonna go into the Elemental Quad. This is 352. I'm gonna go into this first shade here and just gonna get a little bit more of this and just softly dust this above the crease. And this is giving me a little bit of a highlight here as well, but it's diffusing some of that green also. All right, we'll clean it up a little bit more later, but first let's go in with the khaki again and just going to add this along the lash line here. Just taking that brush that I used in the beginning, the 405, and just softly smudging that. And for the lower lash line, I'm just gonna go back to the blurry green quad and we're gonna do a mix of these two here on the bottom. So just gonna go a little bit into the green, tap off, go a little bit into this like beigey taupe shade, and just putting that on the lower lash line here. Totally messed that up. Just gonna add a little bit of concealer where I kind of messed that up. Just tap a little bit more of that in. I tried to wipe away any excess and this will just kind of help a little bit. Okay, then we're gonna take my favorite highlighter from Chanel. This is the Duo de Camellias. We're gonna go into the silver side and just using that same brush from before and adding a little bit right to the inner corner. All right, so I'm just using this crease brush again with nothing on it, just kind of blend that a little bit more, do my brows, and then we'll decide on a lip. All right, so these are the eyes up close. I added the Lancome Lash Idole mascara, and just to show you the swatches that I blended out, you can see that like warm beige base to it. So I thought that was really surprising. I did not know that was there. And then for the lips, I'm going to take the Chanel lip liner in Pivoine, which is number 164. I'm just going to do a little outline here. So I just blurred it a little bit with my lips, and then we're going to go into Tendresse. Number 496 is one of the Rouge Coco lipsticks. This is just like a rosy pink shade. I'm just going to dab this on lightly. And then I'm going to top it with this gloss. This is number 722, Noche Moscata. And just going to put this on top. You can see the gloss is a little bit browner, a little more nude. And now I'm just gonna, make sure my edges are great with the lip liner again, and then we're done. All right, so this is the final look from a distance. Now the picture on Instagram, they had actually used one of the new fall lipsticks, Low Key, and I didn't pick that up. So that's why I went with 496 Tendresse, which I already had, but they're both more of those like soft rosy pink shades. I think Low Key might be a little bit more pink, but a little bit lighter in saturation. So overall though, it's similar enough for me. Obviously the model's photo is gonna look better, but I was happy to play with these again. Before we move on to the foundation, the concealer, just a few notes about the products I used today. Still loving the new bronzer in the 395, the deep bronze shade. I really like the cooler tones in that one. It's not cool toned, but it's cooler than the original shade. Still love the Rose Petillant blush. Wish they would make that a permanent shade. The lip liners are some of my favorites. Love the lipstick, love the gloss, and yeah, so overall, those are all great products. For the brows today, I did use the Jones Road Brow Pencil, still one of my favorites. And you can see how little it is. But yeah, overall, really like those products. Now, as for the eyes, I still love these Stilo Ombre Contour pencils. I think they work great for eyeliner. They don't work quite as well for brushing out all over the lid. Like some shades work better than others. I find that the matte ones tend to be slightly drier than some of the like more pearly satiny finishing ones. So what I mean by drier, they don't feel drier on your skin or anything, but you seem to have less time to work with them. A little bit less time before they set down. So if you are putting it all over the lid, I have to work a little bit faster with those. I was very surprised to see these like beigey undertones. Again, this is the one that I did with the brush versus the finger. So you can see I got a softer blend with the finger. You don't notice the brown quite as much, but you can see that beige, and that really surprised me. So, it's there. Now I know it's there. So that'll be helpful for next time. The Lame Bronze, this is still the one shade from the Lox that is a little finicky, but I love the color and I like the way it looks when it's done, and it does last all day on me. So can't say that I dislike it. I still like it. These also work great for liquid liners. Just, run a brush along the applicator and you've got a great liquid liner there as well. And I'm happy with the combination with the blurry green and the elemental quad as well. So overall, I'm happy with the look. My blend isn't perfect, but it's good enough. Now, as for the foundation and concealer, let's start with the Ultra Le Teint foundation. And this is Ultra Wear All Day Comfort Flawless Finish Foundation. They did not change much on this foundation. It is supposed to be a little bit more hydrating. And this is made in France. It's 30 milliliters or 1 ounce. And again, I have shade BD01 here. So let me just put a little bit here so you can see that. Put that out there. So this is shade BD01. Now, I have a sample of the original formula. I don't have a full size of it. It's not one that I've loved. Actually, I don't even know if I still have the sample. I do. So this is a sample in the BD10. Let's go this way. So I've seen people say that the new one seems a little bit thinner, but to me, the older formula seems a little bit thinner, more serum-like. And I don't know, like the way that they settle on my skin, I do find that the new version, it just looks more flawless longer. So I think my skin looks great with this foundation. You have more of that like soft matte finish, and you know, it doesn't really gather in the lines or anything too much. So I think it's a really beautiful finish. This is shade B10 versus BD01. And let's look at some other foundations. The one that I find to be the closest, it's not here in the US still, it's the Guerlain L'Essentiel High Perfection Foundation. I have to say, I thought this would be in the US. I mean, I've had it for a while now. I bought mine from Selfridges last year, and I don't know if it's coming or not to the US because it's been like a year. But this is shade 00N. You can see it's going to be a lot more yellow. And this foundation in general is going to be a bit of a thicker consistency than the Chanel. And then the other matte one I want to look at is the Clé de Peau Radiant Matte. So I'm going to put another one of the BD01 right below that. All right, so you can see that shade-wise, this is going to be closest to the Clé de Peau out of the ones that I have here. The Clé de Peau is a little bit peachier versus more ivory. And, you know, I think both shades work very well for me. Consistency-wise, the Chanel is thinner. For me, the original formula of the Chanel is thinner than this newer one, but I'm also not sure if some of that is dependent on the actual pigments involved since I have two different colors. Overall, for the foundation, since it wasn't one that I wore a lot before, I don't have a ton of, you know, comparisons and experience with the original formula, but I have to say that I do like this new one better for me because I just think it looks better on my skin, whereas the other one, I feel like by the end of the day, it kind of looked like you had a matte foundation on. It looked beautiful on the skin, but I don't feel like it wore quite as well. And it could be, supposedly they didn't really change anything except like the hydration. I'm not even sure if they changed the actual ingredients. I think I heard somewhere, I think maybe Aileen from A March Beauty, I think she said they didn't change the ingredients, they just changed the quantity of certain things in there, the amounts. And whatever they did, it works better for my skin, in my opinion, because I think it really gives me like this flawless finish. You know, I do have this little wrinkle here that is, well, that's just always there with or without foundation. So, but otherwise it's not really like settling into lines. I don't have it gathering, and it lasts all day. Moving on to the concealer, I also did not have the concealer before. This is my first time with a Chanel concealer, and part of that is the color range. So this shade here is BR02. It is a new shade here, and it works well for me. So previously, the lightest shade, I didn't like that color for me. You can see it's a little bit rosier than the foundation, and look at the way it blends out. Again, it's gonna have like that soft matte finish to it. And you can see under the eyes, it performs very beautifully. Now, coverage-wise, I would consider this more light to medium coverage concealer. If you really want to build it up to a full medium, you're going to need to use several layers. I personally always recommend with concealers, less is more. Go in with very, very, very light layers. And if you need to add more pigmentation, more coverage, you know, layer it up instead. But the thinner the layer, the better the performance, in my opinion. And yeah, so I think overall, this one's really great. I really like this concealer. I think it performs really well. But again, if you're looking for a full coverage concealer, in my opinion, this isn't there. So Tom Ford concealer, the Shade and Illuminate concealer, that one has a little bit more coverage than the Chanel. I have had some requests for comparisons with this one, the Tom Ford, Pat McGrath, and then I did also order the new Rose Ink one as well. So we're gonna do a video comparing all of those, and you can see them all like side by side and everything as well. So for further comparisons with the other ones, we'll take a look at that. I'm just going to do a shade comparison with the Tom Ford right now. And this is shade 0N0 or Blanc. And I do have comparisons in the Tom Ford concealer video with other shades as well. So if you'd like to see those shade comparisons in more detail. The biggest difference between these is the Tom Ford's gonna offer a little bit more coverage. Obviously the colors are different. The Tom Ford is going to be a little bit warmer than the Chanel. It's more of an ivory. It's not really that yellow. It just, because of the rosiness of the Chanel, looks a little bit more yellow. And you can see the finish here is going to be a little different. The Tom Ford has a little more satin finish versus more of that soft matte for the Chanel. So the Chanel is going to have a little bit more of a matter look, a little, I wouldn't say it's flat, but you know, it doesn't really have that radiance that the Tom Ford does. And the Tom Ford has slightly more coverage. So those are some comparisons in a nutshell, but we will do a full comparison with a variety of concealers coming soon. Still waiting for the last one to arrive. I'll test it for a little bit and then we'll do a comparison. So in a week or so, hopefully we'll have that. It has been 9 hours since I applied the foundation, the concealer. I haven't touched any of those throughout the day. The only thing I have touched up are the lips. And this is the concealer. So you can see how that has performed. Remember, I did 2 thin layers on both eyes, but then later when I messed up my eyeshadow, I added a little bit more concealer right here. You can see everything looks really, really good there still. And then this is the foundation. So it has gotten dewier throughout the day. I mean, you can see that it's not like one of those like matte foundations that stays matte. It's really more of a satin matte. And you know, it's very, very humid here. If you couldn't tell from the frizziness in my hair. Yeah, you know, in the heat and the humidity, it has gotten a little dewy. So I have had some, you know, dewiness on my skin, but this is how the actual foundation has performed. So it hasn't really broken down. You know, I still think it looks good on the skin. So that's my update. So I hope this was helpful. Please let me know what you guys think of the concealer, the foundation, everything, the whole look. I'd love to know your thoughts. And thank you so much for joining today. And I will see you very soon. Have a great day and stay safe and healthy.